Good day, everyone, and welcome back. We're going through the Dragonmarks this week, starting with the Dragonmark of Detection, Storm, and Shadow, so those revolving around half-elves and elves. We'll start off with the two half-elf options, which are Detection and Storm. So, as previously mentioned, these technically classify as variant races, so instead of your normal racial traits, you get these instead. For the Mark of Detection, it's sort of like you can actively detect poisons and magic in the area. It sharpens your observation and intuition, obviously. Your intelligence and charisma both increase by 1, and in addition, you get to choose one ability score of your choice to increase, which is pretty nice. Also by 1. I should mention. Detective Intuition. When you make an intelligence investigation or wisdom insight check, you can roll 1 intuition die, which is a d4 by default. We went over this in the last video. And you add that number to the ability check. So again, this is very much like the Dalkin trait, which I really enjoy, and I like that they're doing more with that. You also have Sense Threats, which allows you to cast Detect Magic and detect poisons and disease, but only as rituals. Intelligence is your spellcasting modifier for those. And finally, your languages, you speak, read, and write Common and Elvish. So it's a pretty straightforward Dragonmark. It's quite nice, to be perfectly honest. I do like the deductive intuition, how it gives you both intelligence investigation as well as wisdom insight. I wasn't sure if they might be like, okay, you get perception, but no, they're giving you insight, so it makes it a bit easier for you to read people and situations. Sense Threats is nice. I do like that they can only be cast as rituals. It does give you a clear overview of how they can sort of study and detect poisons and magical energies by giving you access to both detect magic and detect poison and disease. So that's pretty nice. Next up is the Mark of the Storm, which is to do with like weather and apparently swimming as well, which is interesting. I don't quite understand, but I guess it fits. Maybe it has something to do with the lore of the house that it's from, and that I just don't know. So for their ability score increase, they get Dexterity and Charisma both by 1, and an addition of 1 of your choice to go into any. A lot of the Dragonmarks that classify as a variant race do actually have this thing where, okay, you get 1 of this, and then 1 of your choice, or it's 1 of your choice out of those 2. So that's something to look out for. It's nice to see them doing that because it does sort of tie into, okay, you're a half-elf, so you've sort of got this human-like trait, but you're also gaining these benefits from your actual Dragonmark. Sea Monkey, your base walking speed is 30 feet, and you have a swimming speed of 30 feet. So it doesn't change your normal speed, but it does give you a swim speed of 30 feet, which is really nice because it means that you're quite a fast swimmer compared to pretty much everyone else you're going to come across, except for sea creatures. Windwright's Intuition is, of course, where you get your intuition dice for these people. It's when you make dexterity acrobatics checks, or any ability check involving operating and maintaining a water or air vehicle. I mean, water vehicle is sort of tying into that swim speed thing, which does also sort of tie into storms, because ships and all that, they will generally have a hard time dealing with rough weather than something like a horse and carriage or a cart or something like that. Same with air vehicles, so it's pretty nice for that inclusion there. Then you've got your Storm's Blessing, which gives you resistance to lightning damage, which is nice because I've always wanted a race that has resistance to lightning damage. And because this is a half-elf, I'm probably really likely to play it if I'm allowed. So I'm super happy with that. And then finally, Headwinds, you have, the Gust cantrip, which they do actually handily list for you in case you don't have like Elemental Evil or Xanathar's Guide to Everything. So I do appreciate that they have that there. When you reach 3rd level, you can also cast the Gust of the Wind spell once per day with this trait. And then languages, of course, you have Common and Elvish. So that's it for the half-elf Dragonmarks. We also have the single Dragonmark for elves to go through, which is the Shadow Dragonmark. The Shadow Dragonmark, of course, based on the name, you can tell that it's going to be quite stealthy and all of that. I actually really like some of its features, so I'm just going to jump straight into it. Now, unlike the half-elf ones, these classify as a sub-race, so instead of being like a high elf or a wood elf or maybe a drow, I don't know if drows are a thing in Eberron, but instead of taking a sub-race, you take the Dragonmark instead. It gives you an Charisma score increase of 1, as well as the Natural Talent, which gives you proficiency in 1 musical instrument or the performance skill. So I guess that the performance skill is maybe to blend in, or maybe there's some sort of magical lore tying into the Dragonmark of Shadows that has something to do with like performance and instruments and all that. I don't know, because I don't know that much about the lore. Anyway, we go on to the Gift of Shadows, which is where your intuition dice comes in for them. It's when you make a charisma performance check or a dexterity stealth check, you get to use your intuition die. Pretty straightforward. I do like that it sort of ties into the performance skill as well as your stealth skill, so it's sort of like, okay, so it's going to help me sort of blend in maybe. I guess that would be what you're using performance for, although that could also be deception. Or I'm going to try and hide, and thus it ties into your stealth. You've got Shape Shadows, which allows you to cast Minor Illusion as cantrips. Your spellcaster modifier for that is Charisma. I like that because it's sort of like you're bending the shadows into shape, and I feel like that could be a pretty interesting tie-in to like if you're going a Shadow Sorcerer. So you've got this Shadow Dragonmark, and you're also a Shadow Sorcerer, which sort of amplifies this Shadow-type magic that's happening here. And then finally, you've got Slip into Shadows, which allows you to use the Hide action as a bonus action, even if you are not in cover, or if you're under observation. And regardless of whether you succeed or fail, you can't use the feature again until you finish a short or long rest. I'm not going to lie, I really like that, because it's like, okay, even if I'm being actively watched, I can basically vanish at the drop of a hat, which is really nice, and the fact that it's limited to, like, once per rest, like, even just once per short rest, that is going to be a lot of fun for anybody who wants to use it. I could also see this being used a lot for, like, maybe a Shadow Monk. It would probably get a lot of use there. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is everything that I have on the Dragonmarks revolving around elves and half-elves. If you enjoyed, let me know. If not, also let me know. Tell me if I missed anything, or if there's any lore aspects that I overlooked. Anyway, cheers, and I might see you next time. Bye.